Looks like Battlefield is back in 2025 and we've got our first look at gameplay here, and I've been nice and edited out all the flashing transitions because it was an absolute nightmare to look at otherwise. We also have details on upcoming playtests that sound like they're going to be starting soon, and I've got the information on how you can sign up for them to be first in line. I'll tell you how to do that at the end of the video, and of course don't forget to like and subscribe. So Battlefield, as most FPS fans know, has had a kind of rough time of it over the last few years. Back in the day, Battlefield always used to be awesome. It was never challenging Call of Duty in terms of sheer numbers, I don't think. Like, it was a lot bigger on PC than it was on console, and obviously there's just a smaller group of players playing there. But some of the games, like Battlefield 3 or my personal favourite, Bad Company 2, were just so much fun and so different from anything else that was available. Then came Battlefield 1 and 5, and they were absolutely gorgeous like Battlefield games tended to be, but they did lack a lot of the destruction that we'd seen in previous games, and they seemed to kind of lack a bit of the fun. They just weren't as exciting, they weren't as silly to me, to be honest. It felt like they were trying to go for something a little bit more serious, and I just don't think it worked quite as well. And then Battlefield 2042 came out, and probably the less said about that the better. I was really excited about the gameplay trailer for Battlefield 2042, but as soon as I got to play it, it just didn't feel right. Like, the vehicles felt really off, they just felt really unrealistic and strange. Obviously they'd got rid of character classes and replaced them with these kind of hero operators, and they didn't have quite as clear roles, so you didn't get a team where you'd be like, hey, we need a medic, we need a supply. Instead you'd have like 3 people with wingsuits and 1 person who could put a turret down, and it's like, what are you exactly meant to do with that? It felt like people didn't really play as a team very much in Battlefield 2042, and with that team play kind of gone, and there not being very much destruction, and then the vehicles not being very exciting either, you were left with a game that didn't really feel that much like Battlefield. Now, it is worth noting that Battlefield 2042 got better over time. It definitely is a better game now than it was at launch. They released a few really cool maps, they released some exciting vehicles and things, and they brought back that idea of classes. Even if I still don't think it really worked that well, it still doesn't have the same team play that some of the earlier games did. Now, for this year's Battlefield, for 2025's Battlefield, we're a little bit light on details. We know that it's going to be in the modern day, like we know it's kind of got that Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4 time period going on. We know that they're bringing back classes and ditching the whole hero operator thing, and we also know that a lot of the people who worked on Battlefield 2042 are no longer working on this game. Instead, Vince Zampella, who is the guy who used to work on Call of Duty, then he went and made Respawn Entertainment and made Titanfall and Titanfall 2 and then Apex Legends, he's been brought over to kind of head the whole Battlefield project, and now they've decided to rename a bunch of the studios Battlefield Studios. Now, this is a little bit bittersweet for me, because while I'm glad that Battlefield is obviously getting a lot of investment, like that's a really, really cool thing, it is a little bit sad to see Criterion in there, you know. I don't think we're going to be getting another Burnout anytime soon. But yeah, so a lot of the teams like Ripple Effect, DICE and Criterion who have worked on Battlefield in the past are now under this new sort of like Battlefield Studios thing, and they're all working together in a proper partnership to create this new game. Alongside that, and kind of the exciting thing that this video is really about, is Battlefield Labs. So they've announced Battlefield Labs, and this is going to be a new test environment for Battlefield that's going to start pretty soon by the looks of it. They're going to be inviting tens of thousands of people in, and you're going to be doing tests, which will be under NDA at first, so we won't be able to stream it, won't be able to make videos about it, but you'll be able to play early versions of the game that sound like they're going to be focusing on key components of the game. So maybe there'll be one test where it's just like infantry only maps, or there's one test where they really want to test like a new tank, or a new test where it's like, hey, we've got this new kind of destruction, we're going to try this out. It sounds like they really want to try and get lots of feedback in early stages of new features coming in. Now, I say early stages, and they're talking about this being pre-alpha, so you know, this is a super early test. I still kind of get the vibe that this game's coming out this year. I think it's maybe a little bit less early than they're making out. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a game that's coming out towards the end of this year, which means in classic EA fashion, they're going to be putting a game out alongside GTA 6, which is maybe a huge mistake. But anyway, let's not reminisce on how much they absolutely destroyed Titanfall 2 by releasing it at the worst possible time. But anyway, while they're talking about pre-alpha and stuff, I still think we will see a Battlefield game come out this year. I just think there's going to be a bunch of testing for it, trying to build up some hype. You know, they say it's under NDA, but you know there'll be people talking about it. You know there'll be people playing it and getting excited about it. If you're inviting tens of thousands of people in the public to play it, I'm sure there's going to be some people talking about this where they probably shouldn't be. But yeah, I think they're putting this out there like that so they can genuinely get some feedback on things in the game now that the game is obviously in a playable state, is in a state that they're happy for the public to see it, and then hopefully that will inform the game as it comes out. Now, I really do hope that this isn't a sign that the game's going to release into basically early access. Like, the way they're talking in this video sounds a tiny bit like they're kind of saying, hey, yeah, we're going to be doing this Battlefield Labs thing before the game comes out, and then when it comes out, so we can keep on testing things and adding to it. Like, I know everybody wants to make a live service game. Everybody wants to have Fortnite or Call of Duty or Rainbow Six Siege. Like, they want to have a game that works like that. But if that means that the game that we get at launch is just seen as like the first steps and doesn't feel like a complete experience, that's a bit of a shame. Like, I would love for them to bring out a game at launch and just be like, yeah, we're going to knock it out of the park with this game, and then in future we'll add more to it, but it is a complete game at launch. That would be amazing. It's worth pointing out again that we really don't know a lot about this game, like even what modes it's going to have. Obviously, it will have Conquest, it's Battlefield. They say in the video there's going to be a campaign again. You know, that's something they've done with most of the Battlefield games. I know they didn't with Battlefield 2042. We don't know if we're going to get Firestorm coming back or some other kind of battle royale. Are they gonna, I guess they won't do Portal or Hazard Operations again. I don't think that worked very well. But I could imagine them trying some kind of extraction shooter, like some kind of third mode aside from campaign and multiplayer, because that seems to be the trend. That seems to be things that lots of people are excited about. Personally, and I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments about what you'd like to see, I would love it if they did a battle royale. I would love to see Firestorm again. I thought Firestorm was absolutely spectacular. It looked incredible. It felt awesome to play. It just needed a few more patches. It just needed a bit more support and, you know, cross-play and to be free to play and stuff like that. But I'm sure as soon as Battle Labs gets going, we'll find out tons of stuff like this about the game. So let's take a quick look at the gameplay that we've got. So the gameplay we have, and I'll just kind of leave it on a loop in the background, it's hard to tell whether this is campaign or multiplayer. My first thought was this is multiplayer, and that's what makes sense to kind of show off for Battlefield, because that's what it's known for. But the way that the different soldiers and stuff are moving, it looks and feels a bit more like a campaign sort of set piece than it does a multiplayer. But I think EA would be crazy not to show something that's indicative. Normally with gameplay trailers, you can get a sense of kind of features of the gameplay from showing off, and I think people would be really angry if they showed off a load of stuff in this that just didn't occur in multiplayer. So here we see a modern day tank, we see soldiers in modern day uniforms. Someone I'm sure can correct me and say that, oh, this is actually from the 2000s. By the way, the 2000s is 20 years ago. Sorry to do that to you, but that's insane. That's such a long time ago. I grew up in the 90s. Like, that's the equivalent of talking about the 70s. Feels absolutely bizarre. Anyway, so I imagine it's a modern day setting, and you can see it's a kind of deserty type map. We actually see earlier in the video a little kind of overhead shot of a map that looks like it's a deserty kind of map. So somewhere in the Middle East, probably. And then we see some cool things. So there's lots and lots of particle effects, lots of kind of volumetric smoke, lots of things kind of rattling around on the floor as a tank goes past, which I really like that. I like the idea of vehicles being very grounded into the map. It's something that I felt that Battlefield 2042 got wrong. I think the vehicles felt like they were kind of floating above everything, and they weren't really attached to it, and they would move around in an unrealistic way, like they didn't have much weight. And I think this tank in this bit of footage looks absolutely awesome. We also see a bunch of destruction, so we see one building kind of collapsing and lots of rubble coming down, and then we see them fire an RPG into another building, and it kind of just seems to shake the plaster off the wall. And that's something I'm not sure if I've ever seen in a video game unscripted. Like, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but are there any games where, like, if there's sort of a big explosion nearby a building that doesn't actually cause it to structurally collapse, but causes, like, the plaster the kind of render on the outside to just kind of fall off and collapse a bit and show that damage, because it's a really cool effect. I think it's really immersive, but I haven't really seen that. Other than that, we don't really see much. We see lots of soldiers in a small area kind of supporting the tank. I think that's kind of cool, because, you know, that's how real military works. You have armor, but then you have infantry supporting that armor. That's really important, rather than, you know, big tank battles out on plains and infantry completely separate. I think this is a lot more realistic. We also see lots of nice lighting, which I'd expect from a Battlefield game. You know, I'd expect it to be a kind of technical showcase, which I don't think Battlefield 2042 really was, again, but Battlefield 1 and 5 definitely were. And that's about all we can really tell from this video. It's kind of hard to see much more. They're obviously showing it again, trying to get across that kind of vibe, but not much more than that. So if you want to sign up ready for Battlefield Labs for your chance to playtest the game, the website is go.ea.com/bflabs. I'll put a link in the description below. You can go up there and sign up right now. There's a queue of like 15,000 people, so it's going to take me an hour just to get on the site to sign up. But they have said that they're going to not pay any attention to like when people signed up or the order people signed up in. So don't worry, just make sure that you sign up in it, and then they'll start picking people to take part in it. They did say that it's only going to be in Europe and North America to start with, but then they'll broaden it out. The way they're talking about it, where they say, oh, we're, you know, going to invite like 10,000 people in to begin with, it's just going to be North America and Europe to start with, it does sound a little bit to me like they're pretty much ready to go with this. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if people started getting invites to this stuff super fast. Anyway, let me know in the comments what you think about this. Are you excited about a new Battlefield game? I can imagine I'll be covering it loads on the channel, so make sure you subscribe, turn your notifications on, and I will see you for the next one. Goodbye.